Hello, everybody. If you are on this call and you're joining me, let me know if you can hear me. I'm going to actually pop in the other room. My husband likes to jump on and make sure that he can hear me. Hey, Johnny, can you pop on Facebook Live and make sure you can hear me, please? Thanks, babe. Okay, everybody, let's jump in. So just wanted to share a bit about the Friday Love message that I shared. Sometimes we have the time to read those long things and sometimes we prefer a video, but this was such an important piece of this. Hey, John, just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay, thanks, hon. So this concept that I really wanted to teach. Can you hear me, John? Okay, great, thanks. All right, sounds like the sound's working. So this concept that I shared with the Friday Love message, if you're on my email list, you would have gotten this, and I did post some of it in the Facebook page here too. But the idea here is I really wanted you to have access. What? Sorry, he was saying something, making sure you can still hear. Really wanted to have you have access to being able to, hey Melanie, welcome, the concept of the before and after process. So if you're new to me or if you've been with me a little while, the way that I coach is really to help you understand your brain and the thought processes and what I like to call the anatomy of the thoughts and how thoughts cause feelings. Okay, so what's happening in your brain is we have about 95 to 99% of our brain thoughts on autopilot. This is just how the human brain is wired. Nothing's gone wrong, but we don't take a step back and question the automatic pilot thoughts or kind of some of those survival brain thoughts because they're just on automatic. And so the way that I coach, it's called causal coaching, meaning we unravel those automatic thoughts to see if they are serving us to really get us to where we want to be. Okay, and so this little mini class that I really wanted to share with you is such an important concept. Our brains, hey Christina, our brains really are afraid of failing. And so I wanted to share just a couple of things that kind of go on with the brain in this process when we're trying to lose weight. And so I want you to kind of like listen for where you might be, okay? So what happens with our brains when we're learning or trying to start the weight loss, the weight release process, or we've kind of started losing weight, our brain likes to freak out a lot when we're changing. And it's because we're not sure how to process and think about the change. When we're first starting to change, the brain defaults to looking in the past for evidence if we've been successful, and it gets stuck in kind of this like fear loop and this survival, fight, flight, or freeze loop. And when we try to make decisions about changing from there, we don't change. We stay stuck where we're at. Hey, Debbie. But when we really learn to start asking different questions and understanding what are going on with our default thoughts, then our brain is able to connect to the prefrontal cortex, which is the most amazing problem solver and computer on the planet. And therefore, that connection to the prefrontal cortex actually has us change long term. And so I call this process the before and after process. Actually, one of my master coaches calls it the before and after process. So I'm going to just kind of read some of my message from the other day. So when we default, our brain defaults to the past to look for evidence if we've been successful at something. This is the reason why we struggle to lose weight. This is the reason why when we lose it, we gain it back, because it's hard for us to like kind of adjust and really keep connecting to our prefrontal cortex when we're willpowered it to lose weight. Okay. And so it's not instinctive to direct our brain to connect to our prefrontal cortex and really make the change long term. And for anybody that's new that works with me and you might be thinking thoughts, yeah, I need you to hear me. This is the thing that had me lose 65 pounds, go from 200 pounds to about 136, 135, maybe 63-ish pounds, and maintain it easily. It's because I learned about all the emotional thoughts that were going on in the background, how to calm those down. And when my brain was calmed down and I learned what was going on with my body with sugars and flours and how it was feeling addicted, bam, I was able to clean that up, and it's easy to keep it off now. Okay. So don't underestimate the power of thoughts and really understanding and becoming the expert on your brain and your body. Okay. So a couple of examples, see if you see yourself in this. You might want to start the weight loss process and you're feeling some trepidation because you've lost weight before and you've gained in the past. And so think about some of the thoughts that kind of went on for you. If that's you, the thoughts kind of default to, what if this doesn't work? It hasn't worked in the past. Well, gosh, I've tried everything. I've gained it back. This is hard. I don't know how to do this, or I don't know what to do. I shouldn't even have to be struggling. I'm so smart, dang it. These are a lot of the common thoughts that my clients come to me with. None of those thoughts will help you change. They are default thoughts to the past, and they are fear, fight, flight, or fear-based thoughts that keep us stuck, okay? You might have hit a weight loss goal, you might hit a plateau, and then your brain starts to freak out and like, oh gosh, I should keep losing weight, or I shouldn't plateau, or this should be easier, or this is hard. I don't know what's happening. All of those thoughts keep you stuck and usually have us go back to gaining the weight, okay? So all of these types of thoughts, wherever you're at, I honor that. But all of these types of thoughts that are on autopilot, they just kind of come up from that fear, fight, flight, or freeze system. They just create mental noise and emotional constipation. Yes, I made up that term. Maybe somebody else coined it before, but emotional constipation. Tell me how awesome constipation feels in the first place. Regular constipation. Pits, right? So think about how emotionally constipated we feel and mentally constipated we feel when we have those noisy kind of negative Nelly voices going in our heads. We don't make change when that, and I want you to think about those negative Nelly emotional constipated like feelings and thoughts in your head. I want you to literally think about them as software programming. We literally have like thought software programming that create our results. The thoughts create our feelings, which cause us to act in certain ways or not act in certain ways, which create our results. And that harsh mental noise and that emotional constipation just feels awful, right? You've been there. You know, none of those thoughts feel yummy and amazing. And all that they do is they keep us in that fight, flight, or freeze system, and they disconnect us from our prefrontal cortex, which completely disconnects us from our power to see our goal, see where we want to be, and become that person that we want to be. So that's what the point of today's lesson is. Okay, you might be asking, hey, Leilani, you might be asking, okay, yeah, so how do we do this? So let's jump into that, okay? So this is what my master coach calls the before and after process. We're taking your brain from where it's at now to where it wants to be, and then we talk about how we train the brain to get there, okay? And this is life-changing. So the first step is we start with the thoughts your brain's thinking now. We call that the before. Then we go to part 2. We redirect the brain to where it really wants to be, and I'm going to teach you how to do that, and we call that the after. And then part 3 is we look at the thoughts that'll help you actually get to the after. I call that the in-between. Okay, so let's start with part 1. Number 1, we start by compassionately asking ourselves what thoughts we have now. The compassion is super important because compassion calms down that fight, flight, or freeze system, because the brain is wired to always look for danger and judge and worry. But when we start to judge what we're thinking and think, oh, I shouldn't be thinking, oh, this is awful, it just keeps us there. So we look at that really compassionately and look at those software programs and the thoughts. Don't take any of it personally. Just understand that human brains have judgment thoughts. So whatever thoughts you're having right now, those conscious, semi-conscious thoughts, or even some of the conscious thoughts, we all have them. And when we're not aware of them, compassion helps us start the process of rewiring them and reprogramming them and being able to redirect them. These are the reason. There is no other reason. Your thoughts are always the reason that we struggle and that we haven't created the results we most want. If you think about the times that you may have lost weight in the past, it's usually from willpower. It's usually from, oh, I got to do this to like go to my reunion or whatever, right? But we don't actually change the mindset and the thoughts and who we are in here. So once the reunion's done, the thoughts, the default thoughts just kick back into place. This is why we yo-yo. You have to change who you are here in relationship to food and to your weight and to the scale and the emotions in your life. If that never changes, you will always yo-yo. Okay? So when we start with the before, your homework here is think about and write down all the thoughts. And this is your homework, y'all. Okay? I want you to post it in here. But give yourself the gift of doing this. Homework number 1, think about and write down all the thoughts that you've had up until today about weight loss in the past, and the thoughts you have, so the thoughts that you've had in the past about it, and then the thoughts you have today. Okay, they might be the same, but just write down everything and don't edit it, don't judge it, just write them all down. Write down all the thoughts, all the fearful thoughts, all the positive thoughts, all the worried thoughts, all the self-doubt thoughts. Write them out. Just barf them out and just get them out on paper. Okay, and then just look at them and notice how thinking those thoughts makes you feel. Those thoughts will usually cause fear and self-doubt and worry and discouragement and despair, usually those types of thoughts. Hey, Natalia, and they will never, never, never cause you to want to change. Those types of feelings never motivate us. We can never like beat ourselves up or despair ourselves up into long-term change. Okay. So that's part number one, the before. Write down all your thoughts about weight loss and your ability to do that right now. And as you're looking at them and doing your best to not judge them, noticing how it makes you feel, you're going to notice those negative feelings and just realize that those are usually kicking into that fear, fight, or flight system. Okay. And we don't change when we are stuck in that fight, flight, or fear system. We don't. That fight, flight, or fear system, that survival mode system, is only for survival. It's not for change. It's not for growth. It's not for thrival, like I like to say it. All it's about is survival. Okay. So step number one, think about the thoughts you think up until today about weight loss. Don't judge them. Just look at them and how you make them feel. And then number three, schedule a time on your calendar to actually do this activity. So this is your homework. Like, oh yeah, I'm watching this little class with Candy. You got to put it on your calendar and then keep that date with yourself. Do this. I promise you it'll start to help you move. Okay. Now let's go to part two, the after. So we start with the before, and then we're going to talk about the after, and then we talk about the in between, how to get there. Okay. So let's talk about the after. We start asking ourselves this question: what would my future self, who has already accomplished this weight loss goal and already is feeling confident in her body and feels like she has her back and she loves herself, etc., what would she be thinking? She's not going to be thinking, oh no, I'm scared, I don't know if I can do it. She doesn't think that. She thinks things more along the lines of, I did this. I figured this out. I have my own back. I love and trust myself, and I love and trust myself around food. This question is really important, and your brain's going to want to kind of shut down because it's not used to thinking like this. It's not used to connecting to the prefrontal cortex with something that seems like we haven't been able to do it before. But if you sit and keep asking yourself this question and just allow your brain to have some think time, what would my future self, who's already accomplished this weight loss goal, be thinking? What would she be thinking? I can tell you, when I went through this process myself, I started out with the scared thoughts, the worried thoughts. Oh no, what if I keep yoing all my life? I'm achy, pains, etc. But I can tell you what my after is. I never fear that I'm going to gain this weight back again because I know exactly what to do. It's easy for me, and I love taking care of my body in these ways, and I have my own back. And I love and trust myself around food, and I love and trust myself even when I don't love everything that I do. Does that mean I don't ever eat a cookie? No. Does that ever mean that I don't eat more than a cookie that I planned? No. But you know what it does mean? I have committed to never shaming myself and loving myself. And that has made all the difference. That's who I have become, and that's why I know that I will never gain it back. So ask yourself, what is she thinking, your future self who's already done this? So let me offer you some of my other thoughts here. I did it. I won't ever gain this weight back again because I know exactly what to do. I'm 100% committed to maintaining and protecting my mental, physical, and emotional health. Like I said earlier, I love and trust myself around food, and I love and trust myself no matter what. And I love and trust myself even when I don't like what I do. What about this thought? Try this on. Your future self is probably thinking something along the lines of, I am the expert on my brain and body, and I know how to take care of my body and my brain in ways that are loving and compassionate. That is one of my thoughts. Your future self is probably also thinking, I did the work. I made it work. It's not ever about, oh, that diet didn't work. No, it's like, I'm in control. I committed to do it. I created the result. I'm always in control. I always have a choice. I give myself the gift of exercise, and I do that lovingly and regularly, period. I am a person who exercises regularly and does it from a place of giving to myself and giving myself the gift of movement. It's a gift. It's not, I have to go do this. I know exactly how to lose weight. I know exactly how to maintain weight loss. And like I said, those are some of the thoughts that actually, that's who I am now. You're welcome to start borrowing and practicing and considering what if that could be possible. So here's your homework. Ask yourself, what would your future self be thinking about your weight loss, your goals, how you want to feel about your body, how you want to feel about like the aging part of your body, how you want to feel about the scale. When you've already accomplished this, what is she thinking? Write it down. Don't edit it. Don't judge it. Give yourself some think time and put this on your calendar too. Okay, so now let's talk about the in between. This is really what we do in coaching. When I have an initial call with you, I ask you lots of questions about where you are and where you really want to be. And what we do in coaching is really closing the gap between the two. And there's a very specific process that has this be long term. And so I'm going to give you a little snippet of that right now. You might be thinking, okay, yeah, how do I do that, right? So the first step really is you start with a couple of questions. What would my future self advise me to do today, in the next hour, in the next 24 hours, in the next 10 minutes to get closer to my after goal? So I kind of like to think about this as a ladder. We are not at the after right now. Obviously, we're at our before. So we need to start asking little kind of baby step questions to help us just climb the steps. We're not going to like do a tall leap from the before to the after and like, oh, all of a sudden I believe all this stuff, because that doesn't work either. That's like slapping a mantra on something you don't believe, and it's like holding a ball underwater and then it just blows up and then you gain the weight back. Okay. So what you really want to do is start asking kind of baby step questions. What would my future self advise me to do to get closer to this goal today? Next 10 minutes, next hour, whatever that is. Might seem simple, but this question also connects you to your prefrontal cortex instead of letting your brain default to that fight, flight, or freeze survival brain autopilot system. Okay. And then the second question that you want to ask is, what do I need to think and feel today in the next 10 minutes, in the next hour to get me closer to that goal? You may come up with different things for those questions, but they're just different ways to kind of continue to connect to your prefrontal cortex and help your brain come up with solutions. Because what if you really do have the solution and you do have all the power inside of you to create this goal? Okay. So what you do is you give yourself some think time, you ask those two questions, and then you listen. Listen to your brain. This is a big piece of what we don't do is we're not present with what our brains are thinking. Okay. And if you ask these questions, you're probably going to start hearing things like, I can figure this out. I'm learning to figure this out. I haven't tried everything, or I would have figured this out. I'm learning that I can do this. I'm learning how to keep my word to myself. I'm learning how to have my own back. I'm learning how to show up for me. I'm learning to take care of my body and brain in new ways. I'm learning that I matter. I'm learning how to show up for me. I'm learning that when I show up for me, I love me more and I create even more amazing results. So you're welcome to borrow some of those like baby step thoughts too. So again, we don't jump from the before to the after, but we work in coaching on this big yummy piece, and we're literally rewiring our neural pathway habit thought loops to become that person who really, really, truly is that person that thinks and is that person for the after. Okay. So the homework with step 3 is, again, ask yourself, what would my future self advise me to do to get closer to the after goal? What do I need to think and feel today in the next 10 minutes, the next hour, the next 24 hours to get closer to the after goal? And then give yourself think time and schedule a time in your calendar to do this. I promise you, if you give yourself some time, and I recommend a good hour at least to do these, maybe a little more. If you give yourself the gift of this time, your brain will start to change. You will start to feel more of a motivation. And the more you ask yourself, what would my future self advise me to do today to get a little closer? It will help you connect your prefrontal cortex and build self-confidence and get you closer to your goal. I promise it will make all the difference. If this feels like something you would love to learn more about, please reach out to me, send me a private message. I have a wait list currently, and I'm taking clients for the end of February and the beginning of March. And so if you would love to have one of those spots be one of your spots, send me a private message and have a wonderful night. I hope this has been helpful for you. Please leave some messages about what you got out of this and any of the homework that you did do. Okay, have a great night. Bye-bye.